Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nayaswami Padma, and I'm here today to bring you today's brief sharing of an excerpt from Yogananda's original teachings. And today I have a little something further to read to you from Swami Kriyananda's autobiography, The New Path. He says, or this is a quotation rather, "You are a good salesman," an American businessman exclaimed once after hearing one of Yogananda's lectures. "That," Master replied, "is because I have sold myself on the truths I teach." Well, of course, he more than sold himself on the truths that he taught. He experienced and lived the truths that he taught. And again, I would like to take this brief quotation and extend it further, much beyond perhaps the particular, meaning, interpretation of this little section in the chapter of this book, which is to say that unless we are living the truth of what we are sharing with others, whatever that might be, unless we are experiencing it, it comes across to the other person, whether it's a memorized truth. Let's say we're talking about mathematics or history or any number of secular subjects. If we have simply memorized the facts, that lecture, that particular sharing of a truth of mathematics or history will come across as being flat and two-dimensional and uninteresting to the person, to the student receiving it. That's why I can still recall I loved math always throughout school. And my favorite subject in all those years was algebra. And I think it was my favorite because my algebra teacher loved her subject. And she lived and loved it. She had a million examples of it. She was enthusiastic about it. And that came through in her teaching. And so I would venture to say that most of the children, if not all, in her classroom learned to love algebra. And the next year, I had a geometry teacher who was sort of dull and dry and, two-dimensional, as I just described. And he just could not keep my attention. And so it is on the spiritual path, that it is quite visible and tangible for those receiving a talk or lecture, whatever the case might be, even the written word in seemingly two-dimensional, black and white on a piece of paper, printed, comes across as alive when we love that which we are sharing with others. And so Yogananda was saying this quite genuinely to this person, that he had sold himself. He was considered a good salesman because he had sold himself, not just sold himself on these teachings, he had lived them, and he had experienced cosmic consciousness through them. So they vibrated with that essence that he was sharing with others. And so it is for all of us. We may not be able to do a lot, but whatever we do, let's experiencing it first. It reminds me, as I'm saying this, of a story that was told about Gandhi, where this woman came with her daughter for an interview with Gandhi, a meeting with him. And the woman asked Gandhi to convince her daughter not to eat sweets. And Gandhi thought about it for a moment and asked them to come back in a week. And so a week later, they came back to Gandhi, and the woman again asked, "Can you tell my daughter, please, convince her not to eat sweets, because it's not good for her?" And Gandhi looked at the little girl and very kindly offered to her the thought not to eat sweets. And the woman said, "Well, why couldn't you have said that a week ago?" And he said, "Well, a week ago, I was still eating sweets." And so he embodied this truth in this particular little story in sharp relief. It's a truth. We can be good salesmen when we have sold ourselves, when we have embraced that which we're sharing with others. Joy to you, and we'll see you again next week. Many blessings. Bye-bye now.